swallow down deep. A spoonful of sugar could make it sweet. The cancer inside, stealing my sleep. Night after night, it keeps haunting me. The secrets I keep are tearing me up inside. I try to hide them and I wonder why. I wonder why I'm still running when I know there's no escaping. Come undone, surrender is stronger. I don't need to be the hero tonight. All want love, all want honor. Nobody wants to pay the asking price.
Hello past, hello travelers, welcome back, and today we are continuing with the tale of Juan. Now, for those wondering, I thought this dude didn't do part 2s. Yeah, you're wrong. I do part 2s, just very, very, very rarely. And today I decided, why not make this what if instead of just a one-shot like almost all my other ones, why don't I make it a full-length series? And so, I've decided. To make this a full-length series, probably longer than 5 parts, if I'm gonna be honest. But anywho, let's continue, and let's begin. Just a quick refresher on things in case if you didn't watch the last video. Again, if you didn't watch the last video, you should definitely check it out, or else you're probably gonna be very clueless. But yeah, this is what if Deku was the reincarnation of Juan, aka the first Avatar, part 2. Now, just a little refresher of what happened in the last episode. Izuku and his best friend, Vela, were in UA together. Vela was much stronger than Izuku, of course. Even with all of the elements combined, she never used over half of her power. In fact, she usually never used over 10. However, on their big battle, which was the Heroes and Villains exam, she used a full-on 50% of her power. And she almost defeated Deku right then and there. However, he put all of his energy into one final attack, seeming like a Rasengan combined of every single element imaginable. Hold on. Sorry about that. However, after using this ultimate move on Vela, she was knocked out of the building. Deku went to go check on her, but instead of seeing her bruised, knocked out, or even bleeding, or even harmed, or looking like she's in a bad shape of any kind, Deku saw Vela laughing, chuckling even, saying how Deku was able to use and was able to defeat her at 50% of her power without out using Rava's. Deku was confused. How did this person and how does best friend know who Rava was? Another recap. Deku's Wan's soul is linked with Rava at the moment. However, when the Harmonic Convergence begins or is dawning near, which is very soon, Rava and Wan's link can be broken, which is very, very, very bad. Anywho, back to the story. She then turned into her true form in front of Deku, revealing that he was not a normal human, but instead was the ancient spirit. And was the ancient spirit of chaos, destruction, and darkness, Vaatu. Deku before Deku could do anything, Vaatu turned into her true form and escaped. And that is where we left off. Begin. Izuku sat alone in his dorm. He had no idea that his best friend, whom he'd been with for years and years, was the one he was destined to defeat. The one he had to defeat in order for the world to be safe. By the way, I wanted to ask you guys, whenever this story does come to a close, who do you think should be victorious? Vaatu or Rava? Basically, which girl should Deku get? Vaatu or Rava? It cannot be both. I'll put up a poll after the video. But anywho, back to the story. As Deku, who was sitting down and contemplating to himself, as Rava then began to recall the event which happened when Deku was in middle school and was in high school, Deku was surprised, to the least. To down it down a bit. He was in shock that's why Bakugo hadn't attacked him or bullied him at all in the past couple of years. However, Deku knew it was only a matter of time until she would show her face around again. But Deku had no time to sulk. He walked outside of his dorm and reappeared in front of the class. As All Might then said, "Good job, young Midoriya. You were able to defeat your opponent. You were able to defeat the villain team. And young Midoriya is the MVP for this game. Can someone tell me why?" As Momo then said, Well, seeing as his teammate was knocked out, and Bakugo was also knocked out, Deku, of course, did what he had to, and clashed with his best friend. Thus, he defeated her and got the bomb. As All Might then said, very good. Now, up next we have some history lessons. So please go back to your classes, and I will see you all later. As before Deku and the other student could walk away, Aizawa would then say, Midoriya, Principal Nezu would like to see you. Izuku already knew. Oh shit. Well, here comes the chaos. As he walked to Principal Nezu's office, as he saw Nezu behaving weirdly, seeming like he was, in a way, fighting with himself. As Nezu then said, Midoriya, what a pleasant surprise to see you, see you here. Question, is it true that you are the new avatar? As everything around, as it seemed like everything was quiet and still, as Izuku then asked, how do you know what the avatar is? As, well, Nezu simply started giggling and said, how could I not? I've been around for quite some time, of course, watching all of the avatars before you. As Nezu would then say, if you're still confused, allow me to explain. I am a spirit, a very, very, very old one. And if you're wondering why it looks like I'm having a mental breakdown right now, it's simply because the Harmonic Convergence is coming. You should know what that is, right? If you don't, allow me to explain. The Harmonic Convergence is when the spirit world and the human world are linked together for even a short amount of time. All of the planets, and it's in the solar system, and even outside, will be aligned for this one moment. And for only a short amount of time. But in that time is when the two legendary spirits, Rava and Vatu, battle to the death. However, since you're the next avatar, and I can only guess as also the reincarnation of Wan, the first avatar, you have the spirit of Rava inside of you. Although, as Vatu said earlier, it won't do you much good. As, well, allow me to explain. Rava's power gains. Rava gains more power with more positivity, peace, good and light and creation. See, however, as you can see here, the modern world is filled with violence, pain, suffering, and destruction. And of course, darkness. If we do not do something quick to stop the fighting, Vatu will gain relentlessly immeasurable amounts of power, and she will gain control over the spirits once more. As Deku would then say, "What do you mean, gain control over spirits?" Over the spirits. As Nezu would then say, when Rava is in control of all spirits, we tend to look somewhat normal, peaceful, happy, and kind. As you can see, I appear to be a small Snow White mouse with a scar on my eye. However, what you might not know is that when Vatu is in control, I take form of a terrifyingly large, pitch black bear of some kind. Air creature of some kind, with 4 eyes and large fangs, and a face that looks like and half of my body looks like a skeleton, and looks like it's made of bone. What you see, when Vatu is in control, spirits will turn dark. When Rava is in control, spirits will turn light. However, Vatu and Rava are fighting for control at this very moment. Their two energies are clashing. Rava is dwindling quite fastly and quite quickly, and Vatu is growing more and more demanding and powerful. I can't exactly ignore her demands for much longer. As Izuku then said, "Well, how will I beat Vatu then?" As Nezu then said, there is only one way: the Harmonic Convergence. When that happens, no matter who is in more control, Rava and Vatu will gain all of their power. You will have to do what your reincarnation did 20,000 years ago, which was, the being you're reincarnated of did 20,000 years ago, which of course was to merge the power of the Avatar with all Rava's full power. Then and only then was he able to seal away Vatu for 10,000 years. But now that she's returned, well, I fear we are going to need a lot more help. After all, your powers are not exactly up to speed. I mean, don't get me wrong, you're an amazing avatar who can bend every element imaginable. But it will take more than just elements to beat Vatu nowadays, as she is not only gaining control over spirits, but also control over people, meaning she will have an army, and you will be alone. As Izuku then said, "Don't worry, sir. You can count on me to defeat Vatu." As Nezu then said, "Thank you, young Midoriya." As Izuku would then walk out of Nezu's office, as Nezu's left arm would then begin pulsating and would turn black and pitch black, covered in white bone looking armor. As he then said, "Please hurry, young Midoriya. As we go to Izuku, who has left the building, as Nezu gave him a reprieve to train or look for Vatu so he could defeat her. However, he could not find her, so he trained and trained and of course trained. However, while he was training, somewhere across Japan, and in a bar of some kind, Vatu, who had struck a deal with a very, very, very powerful human. As we skip to the next day, we skip to the USJ. Izuku and his classmates were on the bus, us talking about their quirks. When multiple students then asked Izuku, "What's your quirk?" Or Midoriya. As Izuku then said, "My quirk, it's called elemental control. What it does is it allows me to control any element possible. Light, dark, fire, ice, rain, water, earth, wood, metal, bone, blood, flesh, lightning, earth, and much, much, much more." With this power, I want to be the best hero possible. As Izuku then, Momo then said, "Strange, so, in other words, you have powers similar to Todoroki's, but a lot more overpowered and broken." As Izuku then said, "Yup." As Todoroki then said, "If we ever fight each other, I want you to promise me something. I want you to only use fire and ice, so I can use my fire and ice against you. And I want you to only use fire, so I can use my ice against you. I don't like using my fire, so we'll have to use opposite elements." As Izuku then said, "Okay." The bus then stopped as Aizawa then said, "We're here." As everyone would then walk out, meet the Pro Hero 13, as they were walking down the steps, as Izuku felt malice in the air, like a darkness in the air. A foul stink. A stench that was unimaginably horrid. As Izuku, hold on. Sorry about that. As Izuku and the others would be walking down the steps, as a purple and black portal would open. As Izuku would then say, "Villains, everyone, get to cover. Everyone, take cover." As all the students would jump behind something and look like they're not there. Izuku, however, would rush at the villains and would begin slapping them left and right using elements. he would be fighting alongside Aizawa, Awa, 13, and, well, yeah, there isn't really anyone else there. Except Bak, all the other students, of course, would be fighting. As Izuku then said, "Is that the best you got?" As then, 2 villains would walk out of the portal. As Deku would then say, "You two must be the final bosses of this level, huh?" As Shigaraki would then say, "And you must be the mid-boss." And you must be the infamous weakling, and before the real boss. Well then, come and die. As Shigaraki would rush at Deku with all 5 fingers about to touch him. But before he even could, what appeared to be a red barrier would appear in front of Deku. As suddenly red lightning would shoot from the red energy barrier, and would shock the crap out of Shigaraki. As he'd then say, "Ah, so that's the kid. Got it. Don't attack the kid. Attack everyone else." That seemed quite easy. As Izuku would then rush at Shigaraki and we begin using all sorts of different elements. Or he'd be using water and earth, along with some fire. As Shigaraki would then say, "That's a very nice power. The power to use the power to use multiple elements, huh? Quite nice. Indeed, quite nice indeed." As Izuku would then say, Come at me, you villain." As Shigaraki would then say, "Sorry, but as you saw what happens when I tried to attack you, I can't. Because, well, I'm not gonna tell you the big surprise yet." As Izuku would then rush at Shigaraki with his entire fist encased in metal. As he would then punch Shigaraki into a wall. As Shigaraki would then say, "Well, if it isn't me attacking him, I guess it's alright." As Izuku would then say, "Nomu, get him!" As a giant, hulking, purple bird creature, or with its brain exposed, would then rush at Deku. As Deku would then say, "What? This thing appears to be dead. Strange." As Izuku would then say, "Weak." As he would then open his palm and blast from it immensely large and hot bursts of blue flame. Yes, Izuku has such prowess with his elements that with fire, he's over Azula levels of strength. And I have to say, Azula was a frigging overpowered firebender. She did not only have her blue fire, but also lightning. And not only fire and lightning, but she was also an extremely cunning and manipulative and intelligent person whom made an entire nation fear her because and she literally said, and what she literally meant was, you were going to try and attack me with all of your troops, but guess what? All of your troops now respect me so much that they'll do anything for me, so if you attack me, they'll attack you. Pretty much. Let's get back to the story. As Izuku would be blasting his blue flames at the Nomu, as the Nomu would begin charring into nothingness, until it was a pile of dust, as Izuku would then say, "Ha, what a weak creature. At least try to fight me, and at least try to attack me." As Todoroki would then say, "I don't care about the punishment, this kid's gotta go," as he would then rush at Izuku with extremely fast speed, as all 5 of his fingers were about to touch Izuku's neck, but before they even could, the red barrier appeared once more. This time, instead of just releasing a simple shock, it released a very hefty, large bolt of red lightning at Shigaraki, sending him flying into the water area of the USJ. As Kurogiri would then say, "Well, I cannot harm you, but I can bring someone here." As he would then open a portal out of nowhere. And out of that portal would appear Vela, also known as Vatu. As Izuku would then say, "Vatu." As Vatu would then say, "Ah, Izuku. Or should I say, Juan? What a nice day, If you're wondering why no one could harm you, it's because, well, I put a little protection charm on you, meaning if anyone except me tries to attack you or touch you, they'll be given a very hearty zap. But if they try it twice, they'll get blasted with a large bolt of red lightning. And if they do it a third time, well, they'll be charred into ash and nothingness." As Izuku would then say, "Why are you here, huh? I thought you were preparing for the harmonial convergence, and the harmonic convergence." She would then say, "Oh, I am. Oh, I have been. And I am prepared. Behold." As suddenly her body would begin changing, as she would then say, "Along with the power of blood bending, I also gained something. And I also gained something from Korra. And from the last Avatar." Korra, was it? Ah, yes. What I gained from her was the legendary skill of not only bloodbending, but also her own body, her own shape, as she would then morph into this shape. As she would then say, "You like what you see, Izuku?" using the essence of her own DNA, and of the last avatar's DNA, I've given myself her body. You like it? And just watch what I can do with that power. As she would then say, how about a little earth bending? As she would then create a ginormous pillar of stone from underneath her feet. As she would then say, no, not into earth. How about some water? As suddenly the entire water area would begin lifting up. And as all the water in the water area would begin lifting up and would float into her palms, as would then turn to a giant water dragon. As she'd then say, not a big fan of water either. How about some good old-fashioned air? As she would then jump off the pillar and would begin flying in the air. As she'd then say, not a big fan of air either? I know. What about some fire? As she would then begin blasting fire from her mouth, feet, and both of her palms. As she would say, and I also have all the other elements that you have as well. So, please, if you dare, come at me. As Izuku would then rush at her and would try to attack. However, she was too fast and too skilled. As she then said, it appears our avatar powers are equally matched. However, as you know, I've been gaining more power. And it was more than enough to do this. As suddenly her entire body would begin glowing black, as red markings would begin filling the black void which had become her body. As she would then say, behold, Izuku, the power of the dark avatar state, or the Vatu state, as I'm starting to call it. Do you like that? You like it? It works similar to how your Rava state works, but instead of channeling all of Rava's power of good, light, and creation into it, it channels all the power of chaos, destruction, and darkness into it. You see that? I can do something like this. As she would then blast a pinkish purple beam from her palms. As she would then say, and that's not all. I have virtually unlimited power in this state as well. However, it does have its limits. I am only limited to this state for a little amount of time. As you can see, I'm not exactly as fluent with the elements as you are at your full power. And I most certainly cannot do all of the other abilities, such as complex attacks, because this form was only created from the DNA of the last avatar. I cannot do all of the complex bending styles yet. No bone bending. I cannot do bone bending or blood. I cannot do bone bending. I cannot do, matter bending. I cannot do light or dark bending yet. None of those, as I can only do the ones that this form, as Korra, could do. But it's still more than enough power to defeat you. As she would then rush at Deku with all of her might. As she would begin unleashing a barrage of attacks. As Izuku would then say, I need to activate the Rava state. As Izuku would then begin glowing white and cyan. As he'd then say, you wanna fight, Vatu? Come and get it. As the two would then rush at each other, as their fists would then clash with each other, creating such a powerful shockwave that the entire USJ was blown apart. The two were, of course, knocked back. As Izuku was knocked out, Vatu then turned off the Avatar state and said, and turned off the Vatu state and said, interesting. Even with the weak amount of power that Rava has, you're still able to fight me and not die. This time I was using 90%. This time I was using 70%. Quite interesting, if you ask me. How are you able to survive? How? I ask myself that every day. But no matter, Izuku. Soon. As she would then turn to her true form and fly away. Izuku would wake up in his normal, without the Avatar state on, and without the Rava form on, or even in a normal Avatar state. As he then said, I don't feel too well. Rava? What was that? As Rava then said, it appears that Vatu has grown extremely powerful. However, she is right about one thing. Her elements are not as proficient as yours. She cannot use as many either. So, whereas she cannot use many, you can. Therefore, by putting all of your power into that attack to defeat her, you were able to somewhat survive that very large blast. That very large blast of force. As Rava would then say, however, if Vatu has gained the power of the previous Avatar, then that means that when Harmonic Convergence comes, she will not only be at her full power, but she will also be at the amount of power where she will be able to defeat us if I do not gain my full power. Well, I will have gained my full power at Convergence, but you must train on using it. You've only used it around 10 times in your entire life, and you're not exactly all that proficient with it either. The Rava state is your true form, your true power. All of your power culminated into one form. And all of my power culminated into one form. If you cannot use it to its best degrees, then you can say bye-bye to defeating Vatu. Izuku would then say, I understand. As Izuku would then look up to see Aizawa, who would then say, young Midoriya, Midoriya, there you are. You've been in a coma for a couple of days. After what happened at the USJ, I have to say I'm impressed. You were somehow able to beat a villain whom was your classmate. I'm a villain who is pretending to be a classmate. And despite your connections with her, you were able to pull it together and defeat and attack her. However, you were defeated and she did escape. But still, very good job. As Izuku then said, thank you, Mr. Aizawa. As Recovery Girl would then walk up to Izuku and would say, you'll be fine, dearie. Just don't use too much of your power. Just don't use too much of your power next time if your body is not prepared. After all, it takes years of preparing your body until you can use your full abilities. How do you think All Might got strong? You think he just gained his power? You think he just trained till he was 4 years old and then beat the crap out of every villain he saw? No. He trained long and hard to master his power. So, you should do the same. As Izuku would then walk home, he would then see his mom as he'd say, hey mom. As Zenko would then say, there you are, I was so worried. As Izuku would then say, don't worry mom, everything's alright, okay? And she would then say, alright. As Izuku would then say, Mom, can I tell you something I didn't tell anyone else? As in any of the cops or heroes or even my own classmates? As Inko then said, sure. As Izuku then said, my power isn't a quirk. It's a very ancient power called the Avatar. Around 20,000, it was created around 20,000 years ago, when the first Avatar, Wan, merged and gained all 4 of the foundation elements: fire, earth, water, and air. With these 4 elements, he was able to defeat a very, very, very powerful evil entity known as Vatu, the Dark. Of course, in order to beat her, he also had to merge with another spirit, Rava, the Light. It used to be every 100 years a new avatar would appear. However, the avatar has been gone. However, 10,000 years ago, Vatu used a very dirty trick to try and win in the future. She took away the power of bending and the power of the avatar, so that it was only linked to one soul. To the man, Wan's soul. I'm the reincarnation of Wan, and therefore I have the legendary power of the Avatar and also Rava. Rava, please show yourself to my mom. As Rava would then appear right behind Izuku, except instead of the size of his palm, about twice as large as him, as she would then say, "Hello, Miss Midoriya. I have been waiting to talk to you for quite some time." As Inko would then say, "So, let me get this straight. You're a spirit?" As Rava would then say, "Mm-hmm." As Inko would then say, "And my son, and you're linked with a guy that my son is the reincarnation of's soul." As Rava would then say, "Mm-hmm." As Inko would then say, "Am I the only one that thinks that's absolutely crazy?" As Izuku then said, "When I first heard it, I was a bit confused as well. But Rava has helped me out countless times and protected me countless times as well. She's kind of like, I guess you could say, a second mother or a best friend." As Inko would then say, "Oh, speaking of best friends, what happened to Vela? I haven't seen her in quite some time." As Izuku would then clench his hands together into fists and clench his teeth. As he'd then stop and say, "Vela is also known as Vatu. And Vela is actually Vatu, the evil spirit. I do not know why she was disguised, but it appears she has some sort of interest in me, whatever it may be. She also, is extremely powerful, and the reason why I was knocked out in a coma. I tried attacking her, and she tried attacking me at the same time, and I was able to survive the extremely large amount of force which the attack gave off. However, we were both knocked out in the process." As Inko would then say, "Oh." As we skip to the training camp. Let's see. Okay, I'm pretty sure that the sports festival happens before the training camp, or am I wrong? I'm going to do the sports festival first, then the training camp. Tell me if I'm wrong in the comments or not. Yep, I'm right. As Izuku and his friends were getting prepared for the UA Sports Festival, Izuku, who had started getting a lot stronger, as he noticed that the Harmonic Convergence was almost there. He predicted a couple of more months, and the Harmonic Convergence would begin, which would either signal the end of the era of the time of Rava, or the continuation of the time of Rava. If the time of Rava ended, then the time of Vatu would begin, and darkness would plunge and would cover the whole world. Chaos, darkness, and destruction. However, if Rava wins, and if the time of Rava is continued, then there would be, and then the two would be, and then there would be light and peace for another 10,000 years. as Izuku, who was getting ready for the USJ, and for the first event, which was the race. As everyone began running, as Izuku just used fire and wind. And of course, lightning. As we go to Midnight, and we go to the teachers, as Midnight would then say, "First place is Asuka Midoriya." As Izuku would then say, "He's quite something, huh?" As All Might would then say, "Indeed, young Midoriya is an extremely powerful candidate to be a very great pro hero. In fact, he could even be the #1 hero when he's older." Hold on. Oh dear. Okay, much better. As Izuku, and as we go to Izuku, who's preparing for the cavalry battle, as he then says, "I'd like to go by myself. I'd like to play by myself." As Midnight would then say, "Okay, but you cannot let your feet touch the ground." As Izuku then said, "Okay." As he would then begin using air to allow himself to float and to fly. As everyone would try and take the 1 million points away from Deku, but they could not. Instead, he took away everyone else's headbands. As Midnight would then say, "First place is Izuku Midoriya." As then it was the big part, the fights. First fight was Izuku versus Shinzo. As Shinzo would then say, "Huh, quite some power you got there, huh? Must be great to actually have a desirable and great quirk." But Izuku did not speak. Instead, he rushed at Shinzo using an earth-based attack. He then manipulated the ground underneath Shinzo, which would send him flying into a wall. As then Midnight would then say, "The winner is Izuku Midoriya." The whole crowd would begin chanting and cheering, and chanting and cheering. As we skip to the next big Izuku Midoriya fight. As he would then say, and as Midnight would then say, "The next fight is Todoroki versus Izuku Midoriya." Izuku Midoriya is going to use only his higher element, and Shinzo says he's only going to use his ice. As Endeavor would then say, what is Shoto doing? He's supposed to use his fire, not beat someone else who's using fire with just his ice. He must have arranged this to aggravate me." As Shoto would then say, "Shoto! If you do not use your fire, then there will be a severe punishment for you." As Shoto would then say, "I do not care, old man." As Todoroki would then say, "Midoriya, please, use all the power of fire you can muster, and I'll use all the power of ice I can muster. As Izuku would then say, okay, as his entire body would set ablaze with blue and even black flames. And suddenly the black flames would turn white. As Izuku would then say, you wanted the full force of my flame? You're gonna get it. And then you get it. As the two rushed at each other, Izuku using white and blue flames, as Shoto tried using his ice, which was very good, but could not win. As Izuku then said, if you won't use your fire, then it's guaranteed you won't win. I'm much stronger than you even with it, but you should at least be giving it your all. As Shoto would then say, as Izuku then said, plus, it technically isn't your dad's power, it's your own. Your dad's quirk is Hell Flame. Your quirk is half cold and half hot, meaning it's your own power. It isn't a part of him, it's a part of you. And you should be using it to the best of your abilities. As Shoto would then say, thank you, Midoriya. As he would then begin using his ice and fire at once. As he would then say, flash, freeze, heat wave. As Izuku would then say, Avatar, R, smash. As he would then reel his fist, his left fist back, as it would then begin surrounding, and as it would then be surrounded with fire, water, earth, and air, all spinning around at extremely dangerous speeds. As the two who would then clash with their fists hitting one another. Of course, was the pro hero known as Cementos would try to create cement to try and soften the blow or stop the boys. However, the attacks would hit, causing a momentous explosion of elements. As the battle would end with Izuku Midoriya in the middle of the arena and Shoto slammed against the wall. As Izuku would walk out, and would then walk out of the arena, preparing for the final fight, him versus Bakugo. As Izuku would then say, alright, simple, just gotta beat Kachan. As Izuku would, and as Midnight would then say, final fight, Bakugo Katsuki versus Izuku Midoriya. Fight! Two would then rush at each other with all of their might. Bakugo would be using his explosions to the best of his abilities, as Izuku would be just sending the explosions back at Bakugo. As Izuku would be using 4 different elements also: ice, water, wind, and earth. not using fire, as the explosions technically were fire. As Izuku would then, and as Bakugo really could not win, Izuku ended the fight quickly by slamming him into a wall out of bounds. As Midnight then said, the winner is Izuku Midoriya, as the crowds lit up in excitement and cheer. As Izuku then said, alright, and as All Might then said, the winner of the UA, and the winner of the UA Sports Festival is Izuku Midoriya. As then, before anything else happened, clouds covered the entire arena and the entire Coliseum or stadium. As suddenly, red lightning pierced through the skies. As then a ginormous, and I mean about 10 stories tall, Vaatu would pierce from the clouds, as she would then say, "Fear me, humans. I am Vaatu, your soon-to-be goddess. I am here for the Avatar, a man who can use all of the elements, all at once. He also goes by the name of Izuku Midoriya. If you give him to me, you may be spared. But if not, then you will all perish." As Izuku would then say, "I'm here. Now, what do you want from me?" As she would then say, "What I want from you? I want you to come over here so I can knock you out." As she would then rush at Izuku, who would then block her attack with his fists. As Vaatu would then say, "Damn. Looks like you've been getting stronger. So have I. Still not fully mastered the elements yet, but," as she would then morph into her Korra form, as she would then say, "it's still coming along very well." As she would then blast a large amount of fire at Korra. As she would then go into her Vaatu state, which would be a lot more powerful. As Izuku would then go into his Rava state, which would also be extremely powerful. The two would then begin clashing. However, not just a single punch, one and done. Oh no, they'd be using martial arts, blasting the whole arena apart. This was the final fight of the UA Sports Festival. It looked as if two gods were battling each other, for they were flying in the sky, their fists clashing with one another. Izuku battling and blasting everything to smithereens. And the same goes for Vaatu. As Izuku would then say, as we go to Izuku's mind, as Izuku would then say, "Rava, I need as much power as you can possibly give me. I need to beat Vatu before, or she can harm any innocents. As Rava would then say, as Rava in her human form, which looks exactly like this, would then say, "You're not ready. That much power alone will crush your entire body. You're not ready." As Izuku would then say, "Fine then. Take over my body for as long as you require, and go into your true form, or to try and battle Vatu." As she would then say, "Fine." As Izuku's body would then glow white and cyan. As the Rava mode would begin glowing larger and larger, until he appeared to look like this. 10 stories tall. As Vatu would then say, "So, you finally show yourself, eh, Rava? In your true form, I see. Well then, I guess I ought to do the same." As Vatu would then go into her true form, which is still 10 stories tall. The two would then rush at each other with full force, as they would appear to be in a sort of circle, clashing with each other, battling for dear life. As Rava would then say, "I will not let you win. If you do, you will bring destruction and darkness to the human world." As Vatu would then say, "The humans are supposed to bow before us. All of them. And soon, once harmonic convergence happens, our battle will commence. But for now, I can do what I really wanted to do for quite some time. You see, in a couple of months is harmonic convergence, meaning I can do this. This, as, well, the worlds are already mending together. Do you see it? All of the spirits are beginning to return. So, I can do this." As Vatu would then turn and would then blast right into Izuku's body, and would then blast right into Rava, going through the Rava form into Izuku's body. As we go to Izuku's mind, we see Izuku meditating in his mind, as we see Vatu appear. As she would then say, "Foolish Rava, you forgot your link can be finally severed." As Izuku would then say, "Vatu, there you are. Come over here so I can impound you into oblivion." As Vatu would then say, "Then by all means, please try." However, Izuku could not use any of his elements. As he then say, "What? Wait, what?" As Vatu would then say, "We're in your mindscape, Ape Izuku. You have no power here, except that which you control." And now, it's too late. As Rava would then appear out of nowhere and would dash and would rush at Vatu. As she would then say, "Hey, you're not. I will not allow you to do this. I will not allow you. Uvatu, you must be stopped. If not by me, then who else?" As Vatu would then say, "Ah, foolish Rava, always the kind and peaceful. But it does not matter." As she would then say, "Goodbye." As she would then glow a black and violet color, or hot pink. And she would then blast a hot pink ray of energy at Rava, blasting her out of the mindscape. As she would then say, "No!" As Izuku would then say, "Rava? What did you do to Rava?" As Vatu would then say, "I merely pushed her out of your body and severed your link with her. She is out of your soul, so I can move in." As Rava and as Vatu would then charge right at Deku. As she would then blast right into his spiritual or mental form. As suddenly, Izuku's mindscape would turn, which was black and white, would turn, and which was white and blue, would turn black and red. As he'd then say, "What are you doing?" As she would then say, "Doing exactly what I wanted." In the real world, Izuku's body would appear to be having spasms of all sort. His eyes would be turning different colors of white and cyan to black and red. They'd keep flickering on and on. Izuku would be blasting attacks everywhere, until he would stop. His body would then glow red and black, as two more eyes would open up on his cheeks. As black and red armor would form around him. As Vatu would then say, "We are linked forever, Izuku." And we are linked now, Izuku. And come Harmonic Convergence, we'll be linked forever. As she would then dash at Rava, who was now without a body. As Rava would then turn into her human form to try and tank the attack. That is where I'm ending this part off. I hope you all have enjoyed part 2 of What If Deku was the reincarnation of Wan, the first avatar. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all later. Goodbye, and skadoosh.